This year, America turns 250 years old. And this year, I want to do a series of videos that explores the poems that Americans love. Even if you don't fancy yourself a connoisseur of poetry, you probably know phrases and lines from these poems. Footprints in the sand, miles to go before I sleep, not with a bang, but with a whimper, a dream deferred, and more. These are the poems that other cultures know Americans by, and these are the poems by which Americans can, I think, know themselves better. Anne Bradstreet, Phyllis Wheatley, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, Edgar Allan Poe, Walt Whitman, Emily Dickinson, Emma Lazarus, Robert Frost, T.S. Eliot, Langston Hughes, Gwendolyn Brooks, Elizabeth Bishop. These are names all Americans should be familiar with, and inasmuch as any American is unfamiliar with them, this series of videos will seek to be a remedy. We're going to discuss 12 poems. These 12 poems will form, I think, a representative backbone of the American canon of literature for those who attend to them. They are like the bison, or the oaks, or maybe the bald eagles of our literature. These dozen poems are not exhaustive, of course, of the American poetic canon, just as a list of any 12 novels would not do justice to the breadth and range of American fiction. But these poems are not going away. As long as American literature is discussed and studied, these poems will be part of the conversation. And they are poems that have broken out of the scholarly realm and have sunk into the hearts and language of the American people. In this way, some of these poems, and I think especially of The Raven or Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, some of these poems may even seem to many readers horribly cliché. But clichés develop out of language that is not originally cliché. And if these poems are too familiar, it is less an indication that they are now useless, and more an indication that they are indelible. Not that we will be particularly disenchanted with them forever, but that perhaps we can be re-enchanted with them. Why are these poems indelible? What makes them work the way they do? What genius and technical skill is discernible in their lines and turns of phrase? Why do these poems matter? These are the questions that these videos will seek to answer. And to answer these questions, we must go on a 300-year journey from the Puritans of the 17th century to the civil rights movement of the 20th century. Along the way, we get to hear from slaves, from soldiers, from recluses, from outcasts, from activists, from celebrities, all who contributed to the great body of literature that we call American poetry. We get to also discuss movements in poetry, Romanticism, modernism, confessionalism, and more. And we get to rediscover some of the language we learned in school about the formal aspects of poetry, terms and ideas that we talk a lot about on this channel. Rhyme, meter, stanzas, stressed and unstressed syllables. Poetry, even American poetry, let's remember, is an art of rules and organized structures. We Americans like to pretend that rules and structures are inherently dreary or even oppressive things. But of course, rules and structures are necessary for the beauty and joy of all arts and all games. Just as baseball would lose its appeal if there were no bases, outs, or innings, poetry would lose its charm and memorability inasmuch as it loses its intentional patterns and dimensions. And this is true of free verse poetry as well as of formal poetry. This is not to say that innovation is impossible. American poets love to innovate. Many of the poets we will look at, Dickinson, Eliot, and Brooks chief among them, are primarily known for their innovation. But their innovation came from a deep knowledge of the nature of the English language and how that language can be structured into new and striking patterns, patterns that would themselves become new formal standards for the next generation of poets after them. Continuity and divergence. These are principles of great debate within American literary study. When is a poet truly breaking from tradition? When is a poet honoring tradition by transforming it? When are they enthusiastically smashing it all to pieces? We will explore this and other related questions as we journey through these poems. Perhaps it would be important to defend why I think these 12 poems exactly. It's true that I could have picked 12 others of nearly equal importance and popularity, though I don't think that there's any Edgar Allan Poe poem that is anywhere nearly as indelible as The Raven. And yet the poems represented, and the poets represented, do create a certain balance overall. We're going to look at 6 female poets and 6 male poets. We're going to look at 1 poem each from the 17th and 18th centuries, and 5 poems each from the 19th and 20th centuries. These distributions reflect the history of poetry in America. The first 2 great poets we'll look at, for example, are women, one white and freeborn, and one black, and for much of her career enslaved. These poets, Anne Bradstreet and Phyllis Wheatley, are not rediscoveries of a more progressive 20th century. In their lifetimes, they enjoyed international acclaim. They invented American poetry and introduced it to the world. Further, I've chosen to focus on short lyric poems from the American canon. It's true that American poetry is filled with masterful poems of great length, from Bradstreet's Four Monarchies to Longfellow's Evangeline to Whitman's Song of Myself to Eliot's Wasteland and 4 quartets. These poems are demanding and rewarding in equal measure, and to do any one of them justice would require whole dissertations. I, in fact, have written 2 whole books on Longfellow's narrative poems. But sheer space is not the only reason that I want to focus on short lyrics. There's something beautifully American, even democratic, about a poem short enough for anyone to read, understand, and even memorize in a short span of time. The Scottish poet Don Patterson says of the sonnet that it is one of the only art forms you can carry with you in its entirety. You can't do that with a painting or a novel, but you can carry Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening with you wherever you go. It can enrich your experience. It can even change your life. So these poems that I'm going to talk about over the next dozen videos are poems to memorize, poems to keep close to your heart. They're close to my heart, and they are close, even constitutive, in their own way, of the heart of America. Thanks for coming on this journey with us.